to the service, complains, we got upgraded to business class. Like every single time we come there, or she goes out and they're like spitting at her because she's not dressed properly. And this is also about
this
like
is
respect.
in the airport.
This was like we came out of the resort. I think that was Egypt back then. So there's also both sides where like here you see people running around in their attire, but once you come there, you really need to respect or behave a certain way in terms of alcohol,
Okay, very interesting.
smoking, kissing, holding hands, everything, right?
I got you. My name's Ishan, by the way. What's your name?
Mo, hi Ishan.
Mo, nice to meet you.
Hi.
So Mo, I appreciate your honesty. And unfortunately, you're not the only one that thinks like this. A lot of people do think like this. That's why it's very important for us to have dialogues and get to the bottom of this, because unfortunately and sadly, these things can't be seen to continue, number one. And number two, they can't be seen to be predicated or linked to a certain faith when that faith doesn't preach that particular thing, and to instill certain misconceptions which eventually causes people or adherents of that religion to be discriminated against.
So specifically, you want to go after the woman thing or the feeling of like I'm superior
so I'll
because my God is right?
I'll just speak generally because you made a few points.
If you could be like specific, like pick one of the two and attack it.
I'll give you an example. Reason being, because all of these fit into one particular category. Yeah, and that category is when Muslims do something, and when Christians, Jews, or Hindus do something, how are they represented in the media? Because media is our eyes and ears into the world, correct?
Go on.
That's how we see the world, isn't it? So Georgia State University did a study on this, and they concluded that when a Muslim does something wrong, it's reported 4.5 times more in the media than, say, a non-Muslim. So if a person was to watch the news to learn about Muslims and Islam, what would happen is they would assume that naturally all of them are bad. And the analogy that's given is if you are to watch the news to learn about aeroplanes, the only stories you're going to hear is crashing.
Okay.
News don't talk about when aeroplanes have successfully taken off and everyone's had an enjoyable flight. So news definitely exacerbates and promotes more Muslim perpetrators of crimes
if you'd
than
allow
other
me,
faiths, according to this study.
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing that you're portraying it as only immediate thing that's not real, and you're making a comparison with airplanes.
I've given one aspect.
Where airplanes are the most safe way to travel, but at the same time, you have a feeling that it's very unsafe because you see stuff happening. But I'm saying specifically with violence. Like I'm saying, I live in Mallorca now. And we have so many Germans coming because they're saying we cannot put our kids in the private schools. Like the Turkish guys that come over are very they beat up my kid or they harassed my girl or something. We cannot have our kids there.
I understand.
So I see people leaving their countries and going somewhere.
I've understood your point, but you're going to need a bit more patience, yeah? Because I'm telling you about objective studies. I'm not making an argument right now. There might be information or bits that you have not heard. That's why I'm
specifically saying that you call the airplanes, and I'm saying that you're playing there that it is something that appears one way but is another.
Yes.
But I'm saying that in my mind, like if we look even at statistics, who was it? The Swedes were doing when they were looking at the Palestinian immigrants over the period of last 30 years. The first generation, 74% got charged with a criminal offense, and from their children, was it 46% also had like criminal records. So one thing that is happening is that 1 meter is being applied to religion instead of maybe one problematic group. But maybe same with the Turkish in Germany, where because that's the only Muslims they know, the whole Muslim populations is being represented that way. But would you say that these things are real? Like specifically, Germany has a problem, and they call it a Muslim problem. They don't call it a Turkish problem.
Yeah, but this is the point that I was getting to. Yeah, you're going to need a bit more patience. When something happens, what you do is I'll give you an example here in this country. Majority of the pedophiles are what skin color? In the UK.
Let's say white, I'm going to assume,
white.
Because they're also like majority population.
Yeah,
so statistically, it would make total sense.
But do you see, when I said majority are which color, you said white, immediately you came up with an answer
because
in your head.
Because it's statistically most probable.
But that's the thing. when it comes to a perpetrator that's brown or Muslim, excuses aren't allowed. It's his Muslim, his book must teach him to do so. But when it comes to white, and this is supposed to be a Christian country, and they're fiddling with kids, and we know in the Catholic Church there's a lot of fiddling with kids. No one then concludes that the white man here in the UK is fiddling with kids because it says so in their Bible, chapter Numbers 31:18. No one's going to bring scripture into it. When, for example, what's happening in Israel, like the beloved uncle gave you the example of, majority or a few studies have been done about the violence that's taken place, and over 70% of the population are in favor of Palestinians being taken out of that land. But that I wouldn't say that then makes it okay for you to say that all of them are combatants, all of them are bad, and all of them are this, and they get taught this because of the holy book, even though Netanyahu, when he was on the stage, he quoted the Old Testament and referred to Amalek, killing of babies and infants. So that B'Tselem, which is a human rights organization, says that anyone in Israel that's gone through the system, when they hear Amalek, they know it means everyone. Wipe out men, women, children, infants. But again, we're not allowed to discriminate against all of them. The owner of majority of the pornography companies, I hope there's no kids here, top 5, Pornhub, of course people know, is someone called Solomon Friedman, who's qualified as a rabbi. Now if people go, this guy owns top 5 pornography companies, this is ridiculous, it's abhorrent.
This is not a crime, right? Like what?
But seen as, no, it is a crime when you have videos of small children being put up, people
like on
without...
Pornhub?
Yes,
you maybe go there. I don't see any small children. I know it well. There are no small children, let me tell you, I'm certain.
Look,
but if you would allow me, because you've spoken for a bit, and you're getting away from the question.
But the thing is, you've asked something, and you asked me something.
But you're going now to...
I responded slightly, then... The thing is that if you don't allow me to unpack this,
you're going away from statistics. Because look,
I'm giving you an example.
Okay, you want to continue?
I'm giving you an example that a Muslim acts upon his own accord and does his best to follow the religion. Just because a Muslim does something badly, it doesn't mean that you blame the religion.
And you're saying the same thing. So allow me to move it further.
Sir, with all due respect, there are few people here, and when I was making the point initially, you didn't understand. Therefore, I feel compelled to unpack this a bit more.
I will try to hear better.
Yeah, with examples, the Jewish examples that I've given, the Lord's Resistance Army, which is a terrorist organization, they're Christians, the 969 of the Buddhists, the Hindutva of India. However, when Indians do something, no one blames the religion. When pedophilia happens over here, no one blames the Bible. When Israel is doing that, no one blames the Old Testament. However, one second. However, when we came across rape and grooming gangs, and there was a sociologist who was comparing both news reportings, and when it came to the grooming gangs, people or the news organizations were emphasizing their skin color, Asian grooming gangs, Pakistani grooming gangs. However, the Glasgow 7, there were 7 white people who did one of the most atrocious grooming incidents here in this country, well, in the United Kingdom. No mention of their race, no mention of their religion. So what I'm saying is that there is a disparity when it comes to when a brown person who believes in Islam does something, it must be their religion. When a Jewish person, when a Christian person, when a Hindu person does something, it's not their religion. Does that make sense?
Allow me to
sure, go ahead.
Wrap it like for you. What I'm hearing is that people who believe in Islam are disproportionately represented in the media, where members of other groups would not be, which is not fair.
Yes.
Am I hearing this correctly?
That's one of the points of the argument.
And
yes.
I want to go back to the statistics.
Just give me water, please. Yeah.
Where I'm saying if we have any group, let's call them, I don't know, Group A.
Yeah.
They're 5% of the population, and they do 5% of the crime. That's fully expected. That's statistically normal. If you have Group A that does is 5% and does 2% of the crime, wow, this is a group that behaves very well.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a group that's 5% of the population but does 15% of the crime, what do you say?
I've heard of those statistics, and they've been thoroughly debunked.
I see.
Because the thing is, those sorts of statistics, what they do is they promote inaccuracies, and especially when it goes on Twitter, statistics like that get forwarded on. I suggest to you to have a look at those statistics.
I'm
Reason
you.
reason being, there was one study that was done about what is the best city on the planet for a female solo traveler to go to without being harassed, without being sexually abused. And ironically, the city is Medina, yeah, in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. In the UK, if you can search this up when you go home, 4 out of 5 women in this country, according to a YouGov poll, according to the government poll, 4 out of 5 women have been sexually harassed. No one says if you're going to come to the UK, the Christians over here, they want to take the women. Why? Because in the Bible, it tells them that, you know what, this is what it says in the Bible. It mentions that a woman should obey her husband like she obeys God. It's mentioned when she's in the church, she should remain quiet. She should close her mouth. Yeah. Now somebody could say, oh, this is why you have even patriots like Paul Golding of Britain First. He was beating his patriot wife, Jada Franson. We can go and we can give these things, but we never do so. We never say it's because of Christianity. We never say it's because of skin color. Why? Because in Islam, we're told the exact opposite. What are we told? Don't expose the women's beauty. Treat them with the respect. When a woman is born, when a girl is born and you're the father, she becomes a means of paradise for you. Saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him. When she gets married, she becomes and she completes half of the religion of her husband. And when she becomes a mother, beneath her feet, paradise lies. And the thing is that when people blame Islam, we want evidence. We want evidence to show us that where in our teachings does it say disrespect women?
I would ask you, are women equal to men in most countries run on Islam?
No one believes men and women are equal. I don't
I'm
think
saying
you
in
believe
this
either.
country,
You don't believe it either.
I don't believe they are the same. I believe
They're equal in all aspects?
Like I'm saying, no, I'm gonna outrun my wife every time. She's gonna out talk me every time.
No,
it's just we are different.
Do you believe men and women are
Equality
equal?
in terms of like her vote, she has one vote, I have one vote. She can drive a car, I can drive a car. She can do pretty much everything I can do. Like there is no like legal obligation, and also like when like her life is equal to my life. My daughter's
Let me give you
life
an
is
example.
equal to
So
my
if
son's life.
today in your house a burglar comes and you believe in equality, are you going to put your wife forward and say, defend me because I believe in equality?
I'm saying this is not equality.
Will you do that?
Equality is we have same rights.
Will you do that though?
No, because I'm a man. That doesn't mean we're the same. You know, I'm not gonna have babies. She's not gonna piss very far. Like these are like things that we cannot change.
Well, it depends.
We are different. You and me are different. You might be better in mathematics. I might be better at public speaking. I don't know. You know, but that doesn't mean that we're not equal. You're better at some things. Your wife is. We're all different and have different. But we've exhausted that topic. I would have one more for you.
Sure, of
because,
course.
like, what I'm always
I like
struggling
talking
with
to you. You can ask me whatever you want.
is that in my mind, Islam is always political. Islam is always politics and Islam are always joined together with the desire that the dominant rule of law should obey Quran here. That this should be the main book of the country, and that should every law needs to obey Quran. And what I'm saying is that so there are two questions. Like, is Islam in your mind violent, political, and is it great to would you say that we need Quran to rule here in London, for example? Would that be the best for everyone?
So as Muslims, we believe that the Quran comes from God. It's actually the word of God, not the inspiration of God, not written by people. It is the word of God. It's the best manual for humanity, period, full stop. Now, if people want to follow that, we as Muslims never enforce our religion upon people. If somebody does, they are going against the Quran. you cannot force your religion upon somebody else. Yeah, you can give them the option, you can give da'wah, you can invite people, you can debate, you can reason, you can argue. However, you can never force somebody to do so. So this concept of forcing somebody to convert is something that goes clearly against the Quran.
In Medina, you can't leave the religion.
Like, I was going to ask, is there a lot of elections about, what sort of government we want to have? If we want a theocracy, democracy, is there a lot of that happening in like Iran? Like, are we happy with the Quran? Do we want to change it? Is there some kind of way people can speak up and say we're done with Quran, we don't want it anymore, we want to change the role of government?
So Iran is a country in itself. It governs not solely by Islam, just like Saudi doesn't govern solely by Islam. In fact, Iran in 1950, around 1951, had a secular leader called Mohammad Mossadegh. That still wasn't good enough for the UK and the US. He wanted to nationalize British Petroleum, BP.
Yeah.
That was the problem. They didn't care about, there's human rights here and people get to wear whatever they want. It was not good enough for the UK. It wasn't good enough for the US. So what they did was they removed him and they imposed a dictator called the Shah. Why? Because he was okay with not nationalizing BP. So Allende, Lumumba, so these are examples of democratically elected leaders of Lumumba of Congo, Allende, I think of Chile.
I see.
Yeah, so there have been democratically elected leaders of the past. However, that hasn't been good enough for the UK and the US. Why? Because then nationalization and control over a certain country is something that they favor over something else. So this isn't my words. These are the words.
hear you.
These are the words of academics like Mark Curtis, who have analyzed the foreign policy and have looked at what the countries like the US have said. And before, like the 1980s, there was no mention of human rights and women's rights.
And I'm realizing my mistake. My mistake was imagining that people would not want a theocracy and they would want democracy as something that I consider better. And this is maybe also why I am scared, because apparently, can I say that Muslims prefer theocracy over democracy?
Not just Muslims, I would say even Jewish people, even Christian people as well. That's why you have certain people that aren't voted for from the Church of England, that are sitting on the House of Lords. They haven't been elected. However, the Church of England does have an influence.
Are you saying that in the UK, like there's theocracy right now?
In the UK,
there's no democracy?
No,
is there democracy or theocracy right now here?
I'm saying there's a combination of both. However, the democracy outweighs the theocracy, but there are Christians that want a theocracy here in this country, likewise in the United
States. They're a small fraction.
Like in the US, even in India as well. With the arrival of Modi.
You're taking a mosquito and making it into an elephant now.
Not necessarily. I'm giving you examples just like you've done with Muslims that you asked the question. I'm not saying that was your proposal, saying that, do you guys want to come and take over with the Quran? And
that is the worry that, you have a population, like Muslim population growing to 10. With 15%, they're already going to have, if they form a political party and people are going to need their vote, little by little, my worry is that we're moving to a theocracy.
Not necessarily.
Would you say there is the danger of that?
No.
So the Muslims living here, they will vote in the democratic elections and they will vote for their parties, not for their theocratic parties?
Muslims will vote for, they're not a monolithic group. There are different Muslims with different
talking
ideals.
About a core.
No, there is no core. Like what you're doing is you're confusing it with like
cultures and religions.
Like the Catholic Church, like the Vatican, which is the center, and that's why you had the Spanish Inquisition and you had certain people that were killed for not believing in the Christian faith. That's not the case when it comes to Muslims. We're not a monolithic group.
Yes.
So Muslims that come to another country, there is something called law of the land. We come and we have to follow the law of the land. What is the law of the land? The law of the land is, the people do whatever they do through the, through voting and, through insurance, through driving cars. And these are the laws that they follow when it comes to banking, schools, etc. So that's what they follow. If the law of the land here in the UK says that they want a theocracy, that doesn't go against. It's the majority, right? If they want a theocracy, it's okay.
It hasn't happened. We haven't seen it in the Western world.
Is it conceivable?
I'm saying, in my mind, in the last 300 years, you don't see a single...
Is it conceivable?
No.
In the liberal framework? It is. Because if you look at the works of Kant, John rules within, especially Locke as well, when he's talking about Mosaic law, he has no problem with even laws like apostasy. Why? Because it's linked to Judaism. And
can you show me one example of a Western country that turned from a democracy to a Christian theocracy? One.
Well, I mean, the example of Turkey is that it's a democracy. Pakistan is a democracy, but people say, you know what? The democracy is a facade. They are actually hiding. Yeah, but why can't you say the same for America? When Donald Trump is making the case that the number one allegiance is a religious link with Israel, and he's asking and referring to the evangelicals and the Christian nature of the country and how they want to bring it back to the Christian nature. So again, today it's become democracy and theocracy, and they become overlap. There's actually, I would say, a molding of the two. There's no either democracy, either theocracy. There's either or. They could be a 60-40. They could be a 70-30. There could be a 50-50. However, the democracies that are there, but the theocracy, of course, they can't completely be divorced from it, especially when Judaism, especially when Christianity is involved, because Christianity and Islam are missionary religions.
Thank you for explaining that question. I will have one more, because
you
for
can
me,
ask me as many as you want.
We started with the idea that like when I and I'm not always in London, because here, like after a couple of days, you get used to seeing a Muslim person. But when I live in Spain, where you don't have that many Muslims, and when you see one, like you kind of have a little bit of fear, because like media, etc. But at the same time, like what I see, like with Christians. If I compare Christian and Muslim, when you see like the right-wing guys here, usually skinheads or something like ultra-nationalists, they are kind of at the edge of the society. People like spit on them.
How many Muslim friends do you have?
About 5.
Have they ever spat on you, violated you?
No. I'm not going there, but I'm saying.
No,
that,
I was just curious.
What I'm trying to make, that if we look at the perpetrators of the worst stuff in what happened here in Europe, they always tend to hang around religious institutions, around mosques, around...
Not necessarily. I disagree with you, actually.
Okay.
One of the worst things that's ever happened in human history is the dropping of nuclear weapons, which were on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Would you agree?
I'm saying you're stealing the whole train there.
We can come back to that, no problem.
Okay.
You're saying that some of the worst stuff that you've seen
in my history, like I haven't.
Of course,
is like a few lifetimes away from me.
Not necessarily. This was
two lifetimes away.
Yeah,
from
no
me.
problem. However, the remnants we still see if you go in Japan today.
Yeah, I agree. Like,
and if you want something close to home, let's go to Iraq.
You're not addressing what I'm asking. You're drawing.
You're asking everything, but you can listen to him. Of course, only 5 minutes.
Okay. So the point that I'm trying to say, just to come back to the point, is you're saying a lot of the vile acts that you've seen are Muslim-based.
You're not hearing.
Sure.
What I'm saying, if you see some skinhead beating some immigrant, it's a isolated guy on the outskirts. On the other hand, you see like what is it with the when they shot in France the cartoon thing. You remember
Charlie
when they
Hebdo.
did? Charlie Hebdo.
Yeah.
And they were like sheltered by mosques, these guys. Like they were...
No, they weren't.
Okay.
I was following that very closely.
Thank you.
They weren't.
Okay. So you're saying
with
that...
Charlie Hebdo, and when it comes to these things, Muslims are told very explicitly, we do not carry out vigilante justice. If there's a Sharia, we follow the Sharia and we do things according to the court. This is a misnomer, it's a mischaracterization. When it comes to a white man carrying out something, like you rightly pointed out, according to an average person walking on the street, they say, oh, it's an individual, he's got mental health problems. How comes any time a Muslim carries out something, the Muslims just cannot have mental health problems? Muslims are never linked to everybody. We're the most mentally stable people on the world, and anytime we're doing something, we are the most studious when it comes to our scripture, because we are following our scripture to the T whenever we're doing something. This is absolutely ridiculous.
imagine I have
But let me just come back
a
to the point.
Muhammad.
Let me just come back to the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
But address the question.
Trust me. There's a few fantastic points. Now, when you're saying that, okay,
It started as a discussion, right?
of course.
It's not anymore. Like.
No. You can say what you want.
Like where I'm trying to get to, like if I
The
have
thing
a
is-
Muhammad T-shirt right on me right now, you know, like I have a face of Muhammad, and I'm walking around, should I feel safe?
In the park, you're permitted to do that. In
Okay.
the UK, you're permitted to do that.
Okay.
It's like you can have the word.
But do you think
can have
something
the
can
word.
happen?
You can have the word Nigger. Are you going to feel safe? I'm going to be honest. Someone's going to come vigilante and punch you in the face.
I
If
see.
you have the picture of the Prophet Muhammad, according to the law of the country, you will feel safe. But if somebody comes and punches you in the face, that can happen. If you have trans rights on trans people or trans woman is not a woman, you will get punched in the face.
Not killed, maybe. Where with this, like with the Muhammad thing, people get
It's
killed for
happened
that,
in the US. There's a vigilante group which actually targets abortion clinics and kills people because they facilitate abortion. In India, just for transporting beef, you can just be suspected of it. You will be killed, and I can give you the names of these people: Muhammad Ahmed, Muhammad Hussein. They have been killed. Why? Because they were suspected of transporting beef. And it's ironic because India is the biggest exporter of beef. Here in the UK, burning an LGBT flag, people will be beaten unconscious. People that, have the word racist terminology and they go to Brixton, they will be beaten senseless. You have the word PAKI, you go to Birmingham, you'll be beaten senseless. Now,
When I'm
wait, one second. Being beaten senseless by vigilantes is one thing, but then linking it to the religion and saying this is what the religion teaches, then the burden of proof is on you to prove that this is what the religion teaches. Do you see?
I feel
you
like
understood, yeah?
what I understand is that every time I ask a question about a specific thing, here, you take it and you say, like, I'm stealing your microphone. And then you're gonna want my microphone back because it's mine now. And I'm gonna say, but he stole something, and he stole something, and he stole something. And this is how this argument is going. Every time you're answering a question, you're pointing, but they're stealing as well, and they're stealing as well, and they're stealing as well. And I'm saying this is no way to have an argument really, because you're not answering the question. Specifically with the Muhammad. Like if people will come at me if I have the thing and kill me for specifically religious reasons.
I would say,
No?
I wouldn't say
No.
so, no. I wouldn't say so.
No?
Because there was a woman here, Khatun, that was wearing a t-shirt with the cartoon and the caricature of the Prophet, peace be
Yes.
upon him, and she was fine.
If someone
She was-
attacks you for having a Muhammad t-shirt, what this man is saying is that
Will you protect me, or will you help him beat me? What will you
Wait.
do?
So
It happens here. I
you're
open
wearing,
up and
you're
now
wearing
somebody.
You're wearing a t-shirt,
Yes.
and someone is coming to kill you.
I have like this gentleman
Wait.
here attacks me
One
with
second.
a knife. Will you help him or
Someone-
protect me? What will
someone-
you do?
Hello.
You will protect me?
Someone that's coming to kill you is breaking the law, breaking the Islamic law, and breaking
Still
the...
haven't said you'll protect me.
Sir.
You won't
I'm
say
actually
it.
giving you a bigger answer. And if you're patient enough, you will get your answer, but you know what? You want yes or no answers.
Usually, yes.
No, that's not how I function. I'm not going to give you a yes or no answer. Why? Because there's something called Brandolini's law. And Brandolini's law says it takes mere seconds to put an accusation forward, but it takes minutes and possibly even longer to fully, comprehensively answer that. Now, I can give you a yes or no answer. You're not going to learn from me. You're going to go to somebody else and you're going to get yes or no answers and want yes or
I'm
no
listening.
answers from them. So I can either give you a fish, I can teach you how to fish. Now, if you let me finish and I haven't answered your question, you can politely remind me, with all due respect, you haven't politely answered my question. You've asked me many things, yeah, and I have given you the answer, and I've given you other case studies and other examples of how other religions don't get treated like Muslims, highlighting a certain hypocrisy to you. For some reason, you think it's a tu quid qui fallacy, which is, I know I am, but what about you? This is absolutely not the case whatsoever. I am showing you on the grand scale, the hypocrisy that we have when it comes to seeing Muslims that are targeted as a scapegoat, as a group. Just like black people are scapegoated when it comes to gangs and murder and knives, and that's why we had Chris Kabar, and that's why there's big debate about why he was shot in the car, and why a white person was in a similar situation was not shot in the car. And that's why whenever you're in that discussion, you do have to talk about people of other religions and other nationalities. Why? Because we need to see how other people are being treated in a democracy in which everybody has human rights and everyone is treated equal. Why are Muslims being treated unequally in this regard? Me merely highlighting a hypocrisy does not mean I'm not answering the question. Coming back to this point, you being stabbed because you have a caricature of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and somebody is taking your life, goes against the Islamic principle, which is the vigilante justice aspect and the law of the land. Yes, I will encourage the person not to kill you.
You came back for it. I didn't believe you would come
Of
back.
course,
You did. Thank
I've
you.
answered every single one of your questions.
have.
You're talking about, for example, Muslims and the...
Look, I don't know.
Let
you
me
are
give you an
clear specialist in this.
But that's why I'm saying, if you deem I have a specialism, then with all due respect, hear me out then. If I finished and I haven't answered your point, you're more than welcome to come back at me. I've already told you no less than 2 occasions I'm willing to continue. I'm in no rush. I'm not going anywhere. You can ask whatever you want. Have I not said that?
Go
So
on.
now, look,
What?
1 second. You can come afterwards.
you don't need to
You can
ask.
come afterwards. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. You can come
I
afterwards.
would have one more and maybe the last
Let me
one.
just
You
finish
go.
the point. So when we're talking about, and this is, I gave you one study that was the only one I could give because you kept coming back. Another one is that of Naveed Sheikh, who looked at all of the killings from 0 to 2008. Yeah, all the killings that have taken place based upon religion or what have you. Right at the top of the list, with 178 million, was not Muslims and Islam. It was Christians. Number 2 were not Islam and Muslims. Number 3 were not Islam and Muslims. Muslims came all the way down to about 36 million. They're, I think, ranked around 4 or 6. So this is a misnomer when we take objective facts. This is a study, a longitudinal study from 0 to 2008.
Could you address-
the University of the Georgia State University one that the study that I already gave you. I can give you another one of Jack Shaheen, where he's written a book in which he looks within
Sir,
100 years.
At
Can I
this
just
point,
finish this point?
because we turned from this question to me asking you questions and you being on camera, and I'm not doing this as much as I did before.
You're not
I'm
what?
enjoying this as much anymore. So I'm just saying,
okay.
like, because we had a discussion and then it
Yeah.
turned into me asking questions, short questions where you do 10-minute answers. Not that much into that.
I have
Look,
to give
I'm
10-minute
talking
answers.
about.
If you're thinking I'm a
right now,
specialist,
we're
yeah.
seeing a wave of rapes, especially from the immigrants. That a lot of people, like maybe they shouldn't be pointed at as Muslims. They should be pointed at immigrants from I don't know, Arabic countries or whatever. But I'm saying it's real. I'm saying that for me, if there's a chance, I know that, like from 100% of the population or this specific community,
Can you give me some evidence for that? Because
is
you're
gonna be
just
relevant?
talking vaguely and abstract.
Vaguely?
And you can
the
come and
wave
say...
of rapes, like the white people are running away from Germany, from Sweden now.
Yeah,
That
what's
they
the
cannot
evidence for
put their Christians to school.
What's the
The
evidence
statistics of
Yeah.
the crimes committed by, and
Can you give
I'm
me
talking
some?
about immigrants, like poor people. Like
Can you give
taking
me
it-
some?
Can we look for statistics?
If you
of-
can give me some statistics, it
We're
would
gonna
help.
break up the thing. Are you gonna wait for this?
I can
okay,
wait
you
for it.
go
I'm
on.
patient.
I'm gonna come back. All right? Understand the issue deeper.
Help people kind of understand the issue a bit more.
Why I feel sometimes that you go off topic is because you are making it like that and them too and them too, and
I
I'm saying
understand.
this is just an irrelevant argument because like what I'm discussing, or you ask me to look for some statistics.
I'll give you an
So-
example. It's like, when people say that, I see a lot of Muslims doing this.
Okay.
Is it because of their religion?
Okay.
Then what I do
And-
is I say, firstly, it's not in our scripture, like please tell us from the scripture. And secondly, I say that it's very interesting because you have studies done on this that show that Muslims disproportionately get airtime than other religions.
I
Then I
hear
give
you.
like a few options.
And I think
Maybe
the
set me
pressure
a-
point.
Maybe give me like a time limit or something.
Like what we're doing now, like with discussion, is great because it's proportionate. And what I'm saying, like the first thing I would do is I would remove Islam from the equation because
Right.
I think it like just makes you entrenched and it makes me look like I'm attacking a religion, which is not
I
what I'm.
can say very clear on camera that I am allowing you to say what you want and be as honest and transparent
in
as
the
you
time
want.
that we that I've been away,
Yeah.
my son called me that he was attacked. like robbed. Like he was taking money off the ATM, and
Robbed
like
by
he's not.
who?
He hasn't seen the face, but you see, like this, a lot of cultural stereotypes you get this way. For example, my wife, the only she has hasn't been raped, but she was close to by men she remembers as Muslim. So you see, a lot of this is in memory. But I would remove the Muslim and Islam. And you asked me to look up some statistics. I looked specifically in Sweden and in Germany. And
just remember those
yes.
statistics. The point that you mentioned initially, I think it is an important point. If you don't want to tackle it, feel free, tell me. You do understand that there is a migration and an immigration issue
Yes,
here
yes,
in
yes,
Europe,
yes,
correct?
yes.
And you do understand that, of course, America has been involved in a lot of crimes in the Middle East, and that's causing unrest there.
Yes.
And people are now trying to
Yes.
come over to the few surviving countries that have
Yes.
a good quality of
Yes.
life. So because of that, you have poor people, you have people that have gone through whatnot. They're
Yes.
coming over here,
Yes.
and unfortunately, according to MI5 here in this country, people that are causing issues. This is an MI5, I think 2008 report. They said that the people that are perpetrating a lot of these actions are actually away from the religion.
Okay, so
They're culturally
okay, so
religious.
so that's why I'm saying the key for everything
Sure.
is to remove Islam and Muslims and all
Sure,
from that.
sure, sure.
And going to the statistics, where Swedish and German statistics pretty much match, and I'm specifically talking about sexual crimes, rape, where 68% of the crimes, 70 or 65 Sweden, Germany, are perpetrated by pretty much immigrants, like people who are not locals. And out of this, 40%
These
of
are
people,
immigrants, yeah?
of immigrants.
People
and
that
out
have
of
been
all
allowed
immigrants,
to come in.
out of all immigrants, for this specific type of crime, 40% are Middle East and North Africa.
I'd love to see that. You've got the...
I will allow you to go and check it, but
Okay.
no, let's just assume this for a second. So we've removed Islam, we've removed this, and we're specifically talking like Africa, definitely, Middle East, definitely. For gang rapes, where you have a group of men attacking, it's 80%. 80% of gang rapes happen with specifically these, let's call them cultures, right? So, one thing I would describe right away is that a lot of this, they come from a Muslim countries, they might be Muslims. Let's remove that. What we still have is that you have, let's say, two areas that people coming from there cause disproportionate problems, especially, I have two daughters, I have a wife. I mean, I've had a Muslim neighbor as well. But look, if we say that 5% of this group of people are just like that, I'm saying maybe let's think about not having them, like all of them.
That's absolutely your prerogative, and it's your country. The statistics, again, I haven't come across those statistics, and normally I follow when it comes to these statistics, and if 65 to 70%, I assure you, if 65% were Middle Eastern and Asian, the Muslim community, the Muslim community would be up in arms. You said African, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
North
So
Africa
yeah, there are many different countries. Africa is a continent in itself. There are Christian countries, there are Muslim countries.
But you understand that often these people, just because they come from Egypt,
Yeah.
Egypt is a Muslim country, so they're gonna be he's a Muslim guy, right? They don't really ask him you've just raped a woman. What's your religion? What God do you believe in?
Not necessarily. There was a terrorist attack that happened here in front of a medical center, and the person was a convert to Christianity, and they were Moroccan or they were Egypt. There's a lot of Coptic Christians. So this is a misconception a lot of people have when it comes to countries like Egypt, and countries like this.
I'm with you.
Lebanon, there's a lot of
So
Christians there.
we're still saying that that the people from these countries, I'm saying Middle East and Africans, are disproportionately represented in criminality.
I'll tell you what to do. When it comes to Islam, anytime
we removed Islam.
But
what would you do with the rising criminality?
As a Muslim, I'm telling you the solution is to have higher
punishment.
More severe punishment. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Adultery in this country is not punished at all.
Adultery. Is it a crime?
It's not a crime in this country.
It should be.
Yeah, I'd say it should be.
It's like when I'm with a different lady than my lady, I should go to jail.
If you break up a family, if you traumatize the children and the wife, because houses in which adultery has taken place, they're never the same again, statistically speaking, psychologically speaking. Being somebody that's learning counseling, I'm telling you, majority of the traumatic cases come from broken homes. That's actually linked a lot to adultery.
So you'd make it a crime. Like
Even-
if I'm live with a different lady, I should go to jail.
Even the Bible says that you can only get divorced because of one reason, and that is sexual immorality. So this is consensus amongst the Abrahamic religions that adultery is wrong. You may disagree, no problem.
Okay.
But in this country, adultery is not punished. However, parking on a double yellow line is punished. Yeah. Let's just say alcohol in public and being abusive in public. The sentence is not as severe as, say, cycling in a bus lane. And even when somebody rapes somebody, the sentence in the UK for somebody defacing the Churchill statue is more than raping a woman in this country. So one of my solutions to you is, when it comes to rape, when it comes to murder, we believe, you may disagree with that. If it is proven and a person is raping, person is murdering, there should be capital punishments for these.
So you would say
Muslim
that,
or non-Muslim.
Okay, and I'm saying that in the Western world,
The punishments are too light.
We've kind of went in the way where we say we don't want to kill people. Instead of measures where we...
In America they do, still. Even in the UK.
Here? There's
They
capital
kill people.
punishment here?
Capital punishment in the sense that if the police deems you to be a threat, you can be killed.
I'm saying that there were gallows over there. They had like 12 gallows and they were like hanging people.
Not even over there. Hey, it's because
It's here? Cool. So, I mean, there was a lot of that happening, and right now we don't have that. And we kind of like that it's not like that. And I'm saying that there are also preventive measures that I would see as more appealing to a Western man, that instead of giving capital punishment for rape, we should maybe get some preventive measure and identify what sort of people we want in and what sort of people we don't want in.
That I would have thought that would be by default anyway.
Yes.
That means it's a fault of the government for allowing people to come in that are not conducive for society. That's up to the border force to come in, to whoever's coming in. Why do you want to come? Show me your history. Show me this. Give me 2 referees. There's a whole, in the US, there's a 10-year process for you to become a citizen of the US. So if the due process isn't being done, how are you blaming immigrants and migrants?
The countries are deserving it because they're too open.
I would say that there are certain people, and again, you can do this research yourself, there are certain people that have infiltrated certain aspects of certain countries that are allowing people to come in for certain things to happen. That's a theory. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm not saying I disagree with that, but there are people to suggest that some people are trying to let people come in to destabilize certain countries or whatnot, and that's something that they're contending with, that they're dealing with. I'm saying as Muslims, you wanted to divorce that. I'm saying as Muslims, our scriptures do not tell us to indiscriminately kill people, to rob people, to rape people. In fact, I've been with imams and leaders of communities. I'm telling you, my friend, it is absolutely unacceptable. No one, and I'm just a Muslim YouTuber, no one can come and show their face to me if they have any self-respect. If they're a Muslim and say, yeah, I raped a white woman or a black woman or this woman, they will be taken down to, they will be corrected, they will be disciplined, according to the law, whatever we can do. But the thing is that, however, there are certain cultures now. Culture is different from religion. Certain cultures have certain practices that they permit. For example, female genital mutilation happens in a lot of Christian countries, happens in some Muslim countries as well, in Africa. That, of course, is wrong. But for somebody to say, this is what they're doing and this, that, if Christians are condemning that, that's good. Hopefully the process will be eliminated. But for cultural reasons, if an Asian comes over, first question is, who's allowed them in? Why have they come in? Why haven't they been screened? And some attacks, many attacks, I as a Muslim, I have to keep an eye on these. I would say majority of the attacks that have taken place here in the UK, they were on the watch list by the MI5. So my question is, they were in prison, they got early release because the prisons are too packed, because obviously they're not doing the job. MI5 was keeping a watch on them, but they still managed to commit a crime. is this not suspicious? Is this not bad policing? And you're talking about prevention. Norway, this is, you can jump in if you think I'm going on for too long.
Go on. I think we're distracted, but
problem.
your solution is just to be more severe in punishments. And I'm saying that we
More
quite
stronger
enjoy
migration rules.
or strong. You're naming it right. Either have very strong preventive migration rules, or you have to up your punishments because you cannot do both. And this is great. Right now, I would switch because I watched a certain documentary and I want to take your take on it. It was about Iran. And it was about an undercover journalist goes in, and he tries to get bride for the day. And I want to ask, do you know which one I mean? Or
No.
of the process? So the idea is that you can apparently go to Iran, or people in Iran, like the prostitution is illegal. But
I'm not sure.
but
No, prostitution.
cool.
No.
So the way to do it, like you go up to the priest, and they know some lady
Oh,
who has
might
like
be
children
Mutter,
and
yes.
stuff, and she like they kind of arrange a marriage for a day. You give her like some money for the marriage and stuff, and for the day she's like yours. And I just wanted to ask you because if on one side we're saying that in all majority Muslim or Islamic countries there is this happening, and Iran is like one of the most fundamental ones, and at the same time what we're seeing is this like double-facedness where from all the issues we've discussed today, you've kind of like diverted all of them. Not like from what I remember, you haven't acknowledged that there is a single problem, like everything is like super
You
clean
can
and
ask me
kosher.
those questions again then, if you feel I haven't answered it.
You often divert it into they do this as well, and you assume
You have to give
that,
context.
I'm saying that
That's called being
if
honest.
I steal your microphone and I say he stole something, I still stole the microphone. So
If
I
you
have
stole the microphone, but he's stolen something more significant,
Yes.
then I shouldn't be going after the microphone. I should
No,
be
it's your
going after him
microphone. He stole something from someone else, but
No, but if that's a relative of mine, if you're saying he stole that from your mum, I'm going to go to him first because my mum's more important to me than myself.
like we're
You see?
talking like you. Okay, so you don't want your microphone.
No,
'Cause
I-
if you
I
steal
care
my
more-
microphone, I will go for my microphone. And if you tell me
I
she
care
stole the
more
microphone,
about my mum's possessions than I do about my possessions.
your mom situation, because I think this is relevant.
Context,
Because I'm trying to show you why your arguments did not satisfy me, and this is a good example
problem.
because
We
it's
can
really
try
simple.
again. We
so
can try again.
if you steal my microphone
Yeah.
and you will tell me that she has stolen from her excuse me, there's a sound behind you. You have hair. I'm sorry. Now I see the beards.
He only
sorry.
sees bold women.
So the idea is that
Sorry,
that will
bold
not
men.
that will not help you. I'm going for you. I'm taking your microphone, and you need to tell me I don't have your microphone, and say okay, you dropped it on the floor, or something where I see you didn't steal it.
I think that's a disanalogy because just like here in the park, people bring verses of the Quran or people bring verses of the Bible. The first thing Christian would say or a Muslim would say is you have taken it out of context, let's read the context. So that's all I'm doing when you're bringing an issue. I'm saying let's look at the context in the wide, let's look at this Muslim in the wider context of the world. You may not want that and you may want your thing to be answered. I think it's always helpful to have a context even though you may want it to be done quickly.
Understood.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so
We
then
come back to
going
your original
if
point.
The most Islamic
So the
countries-
Iranian point.
the
Shall I answer
Iranian,
that?
yeah.
So the Iranian point. So there are two majority. So there's two main groups amongst Muslims. You've got the Sunnis and you've got the Shias. Sunnis are the majority, and the majority do not accept this process that you're discussing, which is called mut'a. Yeah, mut'a marriage is permissible within Iran. It's permissible amongst Shias. I'm not a Shia. I can't do justice to that topic, and I don't want to go into that because that's something that a Shia can educate you more about. But if I was to just go on the surface without treading on their feet too much, is just like you have a law in this country, which is that you can approach a woman if you like her, chat her up in a bar, and then you can have intercourse with her, and then that's it. In Iran, they have a different religious contract. And that religious contract or the contract of the country is you cannot just have sex with women willy-nilly. the way that they have permitted that within their religious framework is that you have something called temporary marriage, that it needs to be sanctioned within their interpretation of the religion, and that's according to their law in their country. That's what they do.
Why it is appalling to someone from the Western country? Because if you go to what you're describing, going to a bar, chatting up with women, that is perfectly allowed. But if you go to church and you would ask the priest to find you a bride for the night, that is unthinkable, So that might be the difference, where we call it like pimping, and it's something you go to jail for here. So there's a certain difference in culture there.
Not necessarily. I mean, when it comes to the church, they may not necessarily do that, but let's just say
they're into children, right? That's different. But
So whether it comes to the church, I'll leave that to the Christian to answer. And when it comes to mut'a, again, we're kind of in the same class with this.
It's just weird. You don't have anything to offer there.
The thing is, I disagree with that because it goes against my belief, but it's up to a Shia to talk to you about that.
Like which Sharia country is like a model that you would say we need to look up to them? They have it figured out much better than we have.
So the Prophet, peace be upon him, gave us a fantastic example. He said, follow my sunnah, then the people that come after me, then the people that come after me. Like the Sahaba, his students, then those students. That is the golden generation for us. The countries that we have now, at this moment in time, there's no single country that follows complete Sharia. There's no model country that we have today.
Do you see the parallel to like communism, where the communists are saying exactly the same thing? Like no country ever had like communism?
No, that's not what I said. I'll just reiterate what I said.
I'm saying that it reminds me the same, like socialism and communism. Communism, the Russians didn't have communism, the Cubans didn't have communism, because it wasn't followed to the exact point. So I'm saying, when I hear you saying that, I see the parallel where everybody coming next says, this is going to work because it hasn't worked in the past because nobody did it right. But at the same time, we had a lot of communist countries, right? Or have we?
That's a fair point. So the distinction here is that for us to determine if a country follows Sharia, it has to be under the caliphate. There has to be a khalifa there, a legitimate khalifa accepted by the Muslims. So the Ottoman Empire, that was a caliphate. Yes, there were very good things that happened there. There were some bad things that happened there as well. The Egyptian caliphate that was before that. So there have been many caliphates. Today there is no legitimate caliphate accepted by the Muslims. However, we have countries, in fact, post-colonial entities, especially post-World War II, post-breaking up of the Ottoman Empire, there have been certain countries that have been strategically placed. Like Biden has admitted that if there was no Israel, we would have invented an Israel. Saudi Arabia has been, and again, some people might get upset when I say this, but it's a fact. Saudi Arabia is named after King Saud. Yeah, it's
family.
not. Yeah, it was not made religiously, and it wasn't a caliphate. It was given to them by the British, by the Americans.
And the family took it over. They're still running it.
Yeah, the Lawrence
When
of
I
Arabia,
hear you with the caliphate, you can, again, I get a little bit of anxiety because what I am hearing is that when the Sharia country is run right, and we have a caliphate, and from all the examples you mentioned were expansionary. They were wars. I mean, like the Ottoman expansion was probably one of the biggest in history. We can find bigger, but in the last 600 years, that's probably the biggest expansion anyone ever had. So, like what I'm hearing is, if we get this truly true country run by Sharia and it's a caliphate, can we expect it to be expansionist?
So when it comes to Muslims and Islam, we are not in a vacuum with the rest of the world. Yeah, if we are in the rest of the world, we have to go accordance to the other countries, because again, we have treaties. Even at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, there was something called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, which he had a treaty with the Meccans, the Arabs of Mecca. Yeah, so treaties with the countries that are around you. You can't just say, oh, a Muslim that has a principle of back in the days, will we apply the same principle today?
Like the Ottoman, like you said, like that was like a caliphate, and it was
the Ottomans were pre World War I.
Sure.
Yeah. So pre World War I, the expansionist ideology was something not exclusivist to the Ottomans. They were living in a world, they were living in a civilization or a society in which that's what people did. Either you conquer or you are conquered. Today, however, you notice now with Britain, I would even say about the Irish thing. When did the Irish thing happen? How many years ago?
The Irish as in
Yeah,
independence.
when England tried to take over Southern Ireland, IRA and all of that.
Yeah, like about 50 years ago.
50 years ago?
Yeah, 70s, 80s.
well, in a way it's 500 years ago if we're talking about Cromwell.
No,
and
I
so
mean
on.
like
No,
when
we're
did it
talking
stop? I
about
guess.
Zombie.
Like when was there like a deal that
Yeah,
the
late 90s.
late 90s? So it's been around 40, 50 years?
That's whatever that 30 years.
Yeah, so about, even less than that. So it's been approximately 30 years that even the expansionist ideology of England was quashed. And even when they go to Jamaica, even when they go to Canada, the Queen's face is still on the currency, and Britain is still trying to exude their control over certain countries. And that China, what China is doing in Africa, through the model laid out by the World Economic,
Economic Forum?
no, the IMF.
International Monetary
Yeah,
Fund.
the IMF, that they're trying to copy that same model, that indebting countries so then they can vote for them when they need to pull some strings in the United Nations, etc., etc. So I would say colonialism hasn't ended; it's just got another wrapper. Yeah, so if a Muslim country, a caliphate, was to exist today, and if there was an expansionist ideology that they were combating, I'm not saying Muslims have to lie down and say, turn the other cheek, and no, they have to survive in this world. And if they are to survive, and that's what other people are doing, they're trying to take them over and sanction them. This is why you have the BRICS economy. The BRICS economy is there to counteract the euro and the dollar.
I hear you.
Why? Because America and Europe sanctions anyone that doesn't behave themselves. So living in this world in the 21st century, you have to go with what's going on to survive.
When I'm hearing you, I'm also getting a different conclusion, and that is when you get exactly like this caliphate, like ideal Sharia country, or you get like in Russia, you get very few people like, yes, we are Russians, Russia is Bolshaya, all that. Or
Is it? This? Oh, sorry.
you get British or Americans that go unchallenged, like British underwater because they had superior ships and weapons, or the Americans also with the technology advancement. So when you have an unchallenged powers, they go crazy.
Right.
And the only difference is what did they spread? Like the Americans are crazy about spreading democracy that nobody wants anymore in many countries. It's not wanted. But like my worry there is that when I see the countries run by Sharia and then taking over, you see a lot of people in Europe who are like, Americans, we want you, come protect us, we want to watch Friends.
Yes.
We want to have that culture.
Right.
But I don't see very many countries who would be like, please, Muslim people come here and enrich us with your culture. But that's happening. Once every country that has sharply increased, the coexistence is impossible.
Not necessarily. Did you know that
Tell me.
Muslim ruled over Spain for 800 years?
Yes.
And there was something called the
And
convivencia.
coexistence is impossible. We're saying the same thing.
No.
They had a war
Coexistence-
for 700, for all 800 years of those 800.
My friend, you have totally
They did trade.
misread history.
Please tell me, why are you saying that?
Can I just come in there? If I understand you correctly, I think what you're saying is, let's call it the American empire, as that appears to be disintegrating, the alternatives that are out there, are they more appealing or less appealing? Yeah. I would say and I don't think economically the American empire is fading, but I would say what could make Muslims and Christians, I'm a Catholic, live in harmony would be their attitude to two things in particular. Sexual morality, which I think we have a great deal in common, and the other would be the issue of usury and debt.
Yeah.
Now, one of the features, what has made the American empire, and there's a great book out at the moment called Vassal State, which is about the American takeover of the British economy by the hedge funds, the private equity, and the great big tech giants. But what's distinct, what gives Muslims and Christians a great deal in common is our attitude to debt, and the overwhelming power of the American empire has been the imposition of debt, which was essentially legitimized, usury, legitimized in England. That was where capitalism was essentially baptized. Now, I don't know if you want to talk about that now, but what I'm trying to say is, until we deal with the problem of usury, which is essentially compound interest on debt, the Muslims, you've led the way on that. It's still a sin, as a Catholic, it's still a sin according to the Church to charge compound interest, and it was always destructive for any civilization, any economy. But if I'm understanding you correctly, that's been one of the great problems of the American empire, and I think it would be, if we could get rid of usury, I think Muslims and Christians can live together because we have the same attitude too. Am I talking through my hat here, or is that something relevant to what you were asking?
I found it relevant.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I would just say that the development we've seen, why we are not in Middle Ages, is that suddenly you could get some money and build a bakery, or somebody would loan your money and you could start a business. That's what got us out of Middle Ages.
Let me tell you about that. Exactly. Muslims and Catholics, we believe you need to borrow money because you want to build bakeries, and bread is important because and not everyone can make their own bread. That's what the whole idea of a society is. Zishan is a media man, I'm a baker. He doesn't have time to make bread, but he still needs it, so I can make the bread, and I need to borrow money. Question is, how do we finance it? And there are two alternatives. The Muslim and Catholic one is, I can borrow money the Jewish way, and Protestants bought into this, is called, the lender will lend you the money, but he will, instead of charging you simple interest, which means he deserves to get paid for what he lends you with some kind of service charge, he imposes on you usury, which is compound interest. And usury is a sin because compound interest always bankrupts the individual and the society where it's used. So, in other words, we're not against borrowing money or markets or buying and selling. We need that. But do you understand the distinction I'm making about usury being compound interest?
You're talking about the same thing. If you borrow for 5 years, you borrow 1,000 for 5 years,
yes.
You return 1,100. So you have a yearly interest, and you have the interest for 5 years. I mean, it's technicalities that are your distinction that I don't see.
Let me see. Do you understand the difference between simple interest and compound interest? This is the essential question.
Yeah, I understand the difference, but I'm saying it's a technicality.
What's the difference?
Anytime, like a simple interest is when you borrow 1,000 and you return 1,010.
Whatever,
and compound if that happens every year.
No,
so
let me explain the difference.
10, and then you're borrowing 110, so there's more and more on top.
Yes, you're right.
So,
now,
but I'm saying, imagine what I'm trying to say is, if I'm borrowing 1,000 for 5 years, and I'm saying, instead of saying 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, I call it 70. We're talking about the same thing, and the distinction is a technicality.
No, it's not a technicality. This is the key point.
Because I just borrowed for 5 years for 70, so that would be 7% a year.
It's not a technicality, and you could in a way say Western civilization depends on resolving that distinction between simple and compound interest. Simple interest says, okay, I'll pay you 5% because you've got the money and you've gone to the trouble of setting up the bank and you need to pay your staff. Compound interest says, every year, if I borrow 100, and let's say it used to be, by the way, the Jews used to charge 43%, which is absolutely crippling. But if I borrow 100, and let's say the interest rate is 10%, it's just easy to work it out. At the end of the year, I owe 110. Now, compound interest say, now I charge you interest on the 110, which gets to 100 and 20 or whatever it is.
Makes the rich richer, isn't it?
And the amount that I owe you goes up every year. Now, here's an interesting thing. If you read E. Michael Jones' book called Barren Metal, if you borrowed £1 at the time of Jesus Christ 2,000 years ago, and it accumulated at compound interest, 2,000 years later, the number is off the charts. It would be a million with about 50 zeros. It is completely impossible to pay it back. And that's why in a usurious system, which is called capitalism, by the way, if I say capitalism is wrong, I'm not against markets. I still believe in private property, that we have to buy and sell, you work out a just price. When I reject capitalism, I'm rejecting compound interest, which is always becomes impossible to pay and always destroys the economy. And it's been it was legitimized in England. That's what's called the Glorious Revolution. That's when the heir to the throne was James II, the Stuart. He was a Catholic, but they brought in a Protestant from Holland called William of Orange, and he was kind of a figurehead. But the purpose was the aristocracy, we call them the Whigs, they had the money, and they wanted, if they loaned you money, they wanted the state to guarantee that if you defaulted, you could be criminalized. And that's capitalism, and it is absolutely destructive. And as I say, until we get out of it, there's really no hope for us.
I agree.
And I think that's why Muslims and Catholics have a lot in common.
Yeah. And I think we have in the past as well, when we were talking about the 800 years of Muslim rule of Spain, the immense amount of progress in terms of the higher positions that Jews and Christians had when it comes to the inventions, when it comes to the civilization there. In fact, King Roderick, the Christians actually went over to North Africa to Tariq bin Ziyad, asking him to assist the Christians remove King Roderick, who was there oppressing them. So the Muslims and the Christians relationship, even the Jews as well, has been very good in the past. It's only when it comes to land, when it comes to politics, whenever land is involved. Professor Pape has written a very good book that pre the war in Iraq, there were no suicide attacks in Iraq. Zero. None whatsoever. However, post-occupation, it arose, it increased. Same with Ireland. Before occupation of England, none, zero. Then it rose. Same in Palestine. Before, none, zero. Then the Israeli thing made it skyrocket. So to divorce politics from religion and to conflate both, I think it's a misnomer that needs to be brought to the fore.
Absolutely. And can I recommend that book, E. Michael Jones?
Mic, yeah?
What's the book you went
It's called Barren Metal. He got the term from probably recognized the Merchant of Venice,
Aha.
which is essentially about usury and why it's so destructive. And I would highly recommend it. Barren Metal.
You'd be surprised if you wrote it.